Good evening. You are with Lauren Holley-Allen, Emergency Management Made Easy with me, Lauren. In this segment, you're going to need pencils and paper. Some of you will, some of you won't. It's up to you. This is an informational learning presentation on March 3rd, 2026, class number 43. The title, appropriately so, First Wars and Afterwards Mass Shootings. The consequences. Are you ready? Let's begin. Definition of mass shootings. And remember, active shooter training. That's one thing. This is thing two. Thing one, thing two. Mass shootings are incidents involving several victims of firearm-related violence. Whereas the Gun Violence Archive, a nonprofit research group that tracks shootings and their characteristics in the United States, define a mass shooting as an incident in which 4 or more people, excluding the perpetrator. A shot in one location at roughly the same time. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, having a minimum of 3 victims. The Congressional Research Service narrows that definition further, only considering what it defines as public mass shootings, and only considering victims as those who are killed, excluding any victims who survive. The Crowdsource Mass Shooting Tracker project uses a loose definition: 4 people shot in one incident, regardless of circumstances. PBS News report. On March 1st, 2026, a shooting outside of Austin, Texas bar leaves 3 dead and 14 injured. The FBI investigation revealed the gunman was wearing a sweatshirt that said, "Property of Allah," and another shirt with an Iranian flag design. A law enforcement official told the Associated Press the shooter was a 53-year-old male from Senegal who came to the United States in 2006 and was a naturalized U.S. citizen. Officers in Austin, Texas shot and killed the gunman. The gunman used both a pistol and a rifle to carry out the attack, police said. The FBI further stated the shooter was being investigated as a potential, the shooting was being investigated as an act of terrorism. News, March 28, 2026. The U.S. and Israel launched a major attack on Iran as President Donald Trump urges Iranians to take over their country. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been killed. In addition, the missiles destroyed a girls' primary school in Minab, southern Iran, killing approximately 150 and wounding 100. Many students are believed to be among the dead. The United Nations UNESCO Education Agency reports the bombing of a primary school during the U.S. and Israel military attacks on Iran on Saturday, February 28th, 26, constitutes a grave violation of humanitarian law. What are the impacts of war on the United States citizens? The consequences of war on the safety of the United States citizens are multifaceted, or affecting individuals on military bases, abroad, and at home, through direct or indirect physical and psychological means. Conflicts, such as the recent attack on Iran, have historically resulted in heightened threat environments, travel disruptions, and increased risks of cyber or terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. The primary consequences to the safety and security of U.S. citizens. 1. Direct physical danger abroad. U.S. citizens, including vacationers, business executives and teams, diplomats, contractors, and civilians in conflict zones, face risks from military operations, missile strikes, and kidnappings. 2. Domestic terrorist threats. International conflicts lead to homeland security risk. Federal agencies warns of attacks from lone wolf attackers, sleeper cells, who are largely self-radicalized attackers. Extremist attacks on public infrastructure target U.S. power grids, water treatment facilities. Ransomware and finance gangs hit record levels, with billions in payment, frequently targeting schools, hospitals, and government agencies. Does anyone remember any of this? Houses of worship and religious centers across a variety of faiths, including Jewish synagogues, Buddhist temples, Muslim mosques, and Catholic churches, are experiencing high amounts of vandalism, arson, and other property damage already. Large, high-profile public events, such as a New Year's Day vehicle ramming in New Orleans, have spurred warnings about further copycat attacks. Overall, these attacks demonstrated a shift toward exploiting rather than just damaging critical infrastructure, with hacktivist groups seeking to cause public disruption. Can you imagine what it would be like in your town or city or country if all the lights went out? 3. Psychological trauma and mental health concerns. I hearken back to the Vietnam and Gulf Wars, especially if conflicts drag on for extended periods or years. As a nursing student employed at the Veterans Hospital, I observed exposure to war-related stressors and having loved ones in combat can and did result in long-term mental health issues. For example, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD it's called, depression, drug use and anxiety for both veterans and civilian workers. After returning home from Vietnam, where drugs were plentiful there. 4. Economic insecurity, inflation, and financial disruption. War disrupts an already global supply chain due to tariffs, which are taxes on U.S. citizens that increase consumer prices. Inflation and economic instability are increased factors for consumers. during wartime. Civil liberties and surveillance. It's number 5. The post-September 11, 2001 War on Terror triggered increased surveillance and privacy violation toward citizens. As a result, privacy rights were violated. U.S. citizens were illegally monitored, deemed to be a threat, and placed in detention or jails. Note, detention centers are being built in cities throughout the United States right now in 2026. Think about that. 6. Gas rationing and shortages. Historically, in various wars, U.S. citizens experienced shortages of essential goods, food, gas, lack of employment, medical personnel, as resources were diverted to the front lines. That's from World War II. And beyond. Currently, in March 2026, the news reports the Strait of Hormuz is closed and diverting cargo ships to different routes. This negatively impacts 20% of global oil and petroleum, which is really 30%. Liquefied natural gas exports pass through the strait, which serves as the primary route for petroleum exported from Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE, United Arab Emirates. When closed or compromised, gas prices can increase or are negatively affected. To date, gas has increased 50%. Give me a moment. In the U.S., heard that on the news before I came up. Social polarization and bias discrimination. Conflicts, war, and politics can fuel an increase of anti-immigrant sentiment and internal social division. This creates unsafe environments for certain individuals in communities within the United States. I hearken back to Minnesota. That's not too far away. Lessons learned regarding wars. Data from the Cost of War Project reports after September 11, 2001, military operations led to thousands of U.S. troops' death. Over 1.8 million veterans reported service-connected disabilities, and they are still suffering. I know, because I was there as a nursing student and as a psychology major. In addition, contractors and diplomats were injured and died. High rates of post-traumatic stress syndrome caused intergenerational trauma for the families of personnel involved in various conflicts and wars. Direct financial costs for U.S. taxpayers. The total direct cost of the post-September 11, 2001 wars in terms of U.S. government spending was roughly $2 trillion over a 20-year period. This includes direct war costs and money spent on reconstruction, humanitarian aid, and efforts to build and support local security forces. Americans will never forget the coordinated terrorist attack on September 11, 2001, against the country's financial center in New York, its global military headquarters at the Pentagon, and its civilian air transportation system. I pray, and I do pray, that we never, ever forget. And that ends my presentation for this evening. Any comments? Prepare before it happens at outlook.com. And I am Lauren Holley-Allen, your creator, your content creator for the good of the order, for the good of you, for the good of our country. God bless America. Good night.